All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming out to this little light. Really enjoyed the film. I have a lot of things I would like to say, but I'm going to put it in the ask a question chat box at the bottom of the screening window. Make sure that you join us on Tuesday, July 27th for Fondue Brazil. It's about the African Arts Festival in Brazil. Join us for that. Also, please don't rush out of here. Stick around for the discussion led by Khalil Ziegler. The subject, Wendi Moore-O'Neal and director Ada McMahon will join Jenine Hansel, Black Feminist and host of Not Another Angry Black Woman podcast. In discussion, and any questions you have, put them in the chat or definitely at the ask question at the bottom of the screening window. If you enjoy our programming, you could support by making a donation. That's also at the bottom of the screen. Also, last thing I want to say is happy Juneteenth. Check out our website, sabirafilmfest.org. Under the Celebrating Juneteenth tab, we have Pittsburgh's Black Hall of Fame, designed by Sabira's brother, Mike Hill, and we're celebrating notable Black Pittsburghers. So definitely in the spirit of Juneteenth, I'm going to bid you adieu and enjoy the discussion. Bye, y'all.
So I'm just going to let you all really talk it out, and I'll jump in with any questions that the chat may have. But first, I just wanted to say I really love the film, and I love that we ended on this feeling of joy and having your family there, Wendi, and how they all smiled. It was a lovely thing to see at the end, especially when you were going through, the struggle with working. I'm trying to do these legal battles with this organization.
Thank you. I have to say that I just have to start with this song that's insisting on coming out. And it just says, I have decided to walk in freedom. I have decided to walk in freedom. I have decided to walk in freedom. No turning back, no turning back. Though fear may follow, I still choose freedom. Though fear may find me, I still choose freedom. Though fear may find me, I still choose freedom. No turning back, no turning back.
That was so beautiful, Wendi.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
I guess I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jenine Hansel. Like Ogechi said, I'm the creator and host of Not Another Angry Black Woman, the podcast. Of course, it's 100% a play on the trope that Black women are irrationally angry and aggressive and all of this racist dogma, right, that's created around Black women. And I use that platform to speak about all the isms, we'll say, capitalism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, not just things that affect me as a cis-het Black woman, but things that affect everyone, because I feel like liberation is truly, it's interconnected, and we will never be free until the most ill-treated among us are free, which is, I personally believe, queer and Black trans women. So, that's my little intro. I did want to say about the film, I thought it was an amazing film. Wendi, the African griot energy that I feel is sometimes it's not carried on as it used to be in the past. I felt like the spirit of the ancestors when you sing. I love that aspect of the film. And secondly, I also wanted to say, despite the humanization of what you went through, the ailments of your parents, just trying to be a human in a pandemic in society, I feel so inspired, and I'm so glad that you're able to tell your story in how you did. And I just want to say kudos to you. And I loved it. I really loved the film. And Ada as well. Thanks for the production and the force.
Thank you, Jenine. And I loved your podcast. I can't wait to get back to it. I got a little taste. And
no, absolutely. I love your story. We're gonna have to link up on that later, of course, but definitely.
And you know, the truth is I'm inspired by all the people in my life who are living through these experiences and much worse, you know. And that's the thing to me about this story is this is my telling of an experience I've had, but it's such a common everyday story. It's such a common story, you know, like there are so few, like, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but working in the 21st century during late stage capitalism don't have a whole lot for workers, you know. And
yeah, so it's not doing what it needs to do, right?
No. So I just wanted to put it out there that this is a common story, and so many people are experiencing, are finding ways to live through what it is to experience oppression, you know. So
great. I have a quick question for you, Wendi. Are you, if you don't mind, can you elaborate further on your history of activism and even like with your family and the songs, and can you like connect how like your path came to be? I guess prior to your, I guess you call yourself a freedom fighter, right? Your freedom fighter work with, especially with MCC.
Yeah, I'm a freedom singer. I guess, I mean, yeah, I was born into a family of activists. And my dad worked with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was a field secretary. And he worked with the freedom schools, and with he worked with the Southwest Georgia Project for a little bit. And he worked with a literacy program in Mississippi. And that's how he found his way from Southern Illinois down to the Deep South. And it was while working in SNCC that he and others decided there needed to be a theater. Because that's what his heart he was a playwright. And so and he figured that there was no better drama than the struggle for justice of our people. And so they built theater, a theater in support of Black and other similarly oppressed people who are willing to do something to make our lives better. And
so this is in your blood. This work is in the lineage.
It's true. Yeah. And Ada is somebody who was actually a part of the work that we were doing here in our community, including our efforts to continue to keep the funding in New Orleans after I was fired. And so I figured that Ada would be a great person to work with to tell this story because pieces of it are hers. So.
And we actually had a question come from the chat just asking for you to elaborate on how you and Ada had met. And so I'm glad that we were able to get to that organically. But
well, I'll add a little bit more detail, which is actually the person who told Wendi about the job in the first place at the time was my partner. So that was I think maybe we met socially through RC then. And then Wendi co-facilitated a group called the Greater New Orleans Organizers Roundtable. And
through my work with MCC.
And I was in that group, and we worked on a collaborative film in that group together around 10 years after Hurricane Katrina, the grassroots anti-racist recovery efforts. And then we also were in a book club together. So we kind of kept coming in connection in that, like, I don't think we were really calling ourselves friends for a while, because there was that like kind of organizing allyship like relationship. And then we just kept growing, especially working on this film together. And I also just want to say it that we're actually co-directors of the film. So I'm co with her.
Yeah, that was a deliberate decision on our part, because I actually approached her about doing the film, and I approached her at a time that she was starting film school. And so I knew she would have time and equipment. So we made this film with basically a bucket of chicken and a couple of plane tickets.
That is amazing. And since we're on that collaboration, that co-directing, and we can get into talking about that conversation that you two had on film, that really powerful conversation.
Ooh, I love that conversation.
Right. I was wondering, like, how you balanced creative minds when co-directing the film, you know?
You want to start, Ada?
Sure. I think we started talking about sort of our purpose for the film, which really started with Wendi, who had the sort of impulse to share her story. And so we identified what were our goals for the film, which included Wendi's own catharsis and healing. I think we called it catharsis at the time.
Yes, catharsis.
And
I want to get it out and make it public.
Yeah. Her self-determination. I had a goal around kind of working on the film to co-create the culture of the film school program I was in. And then we talked about, okay, well, what's the story and how are we going to tell it, and kind of identifying what in Wendi's life did it make sense to film. And so I like the barbershop scene. I remember it was kind of like, well, what are you doing this week? You know? And then Wendi started talking about what it meant for her to see her barber. And so I had a sense of what that whole experience meant for Wendi going into it. So we kind of collaborated on what we were going to film, certainly like the story, the interview questions. And then after, it was maybe like a month or maybe a little less of shooting, then I was going back to my grad program in Milwaukee, and Wendi was kind of like, all right, you take it from here. I want to see what you can do with this. And so I kind of just edited steadily for like a month or two, and then showed Wendi kind of, maybe it was like started with just excerpts from her interview that I thought would become the backbone of the film. So by then I would edit, send Wendi cuts. She would call me and we would talk about her feedback for a couple hours, and then I would incorporate that. And we only had a couple minor like disagreement. I mean, it was like, I don't think it ever came to, You go ahead, Wendi.
No, well, I noticed there are things you all probably wouldn't even notice, but one of the primary things the first thing that I remember that where I really felt like a director was beyond kind of storyboarding it out was like when I was talking to a friend and telling her how okay, let me start. First, I loved the film the first time Ada showed it to me. I was like, oh my God, I look beautiful. And I had never really imagined seeing myself on film in a way where that was my response. And so that was number one. And number two, I was like, the next time she finally gave me a version and I didn't feel that way anymore. And I realized what it was because when the captions were put on, the lens changed. So we changed the captions to say my dad instead of Wendy's dad. Do you see what I'm saying? My brother instead of Wendy's brother, or so that it was all in first person. And that is an example of not something we had a disagreement about, but something where I think it really makes a big difference to have someone who's the subject making directorial decisions. And then another example that I think is important that people would otherwise not know if we didn't tell you is how we handled your critiques in school.
Mm-hmm.
The Ada, you know, when you're in school, you get the benefit of critique sessions. And so for Ada's critique, we decided to Zoom me in. And I'm pretty sure that was a first in your...
Yeah.
You want to talk about that just a little?
Yeah. I mean, it was part of us being co-directors and sort of wanting to bring that into the space of my graduate school. And it really changed. The first critiques I went to, I was kind of struck by the environment. Like there seemed to be a little bit of a harshness about it where it's as if the filmmakers weren't, or it's as if what the films were about weren't actual humans. It was more just like critique. And I think I just wanted Wendi to be in the room, and I also wanted the room to have to face Wendi in a way and have that invite everyone, all the critiquers' humanity to step up too, to see like, oh, I'm actually talking to a person and not just like tearing apart an object or something. And people really, it really changed the culture of the critique in terms of, I think, the connection and respect. And I don't know, people there seemed really moved by it and excited to have a conversation and break down that culture a little bit.
And then finally, with this piece, we're in a lot of conversation about what it meant for the lens that we are both applying to this experience, what we wanted to share and what was required in order to center our lens. And so we decided that it would shift the dynamic to put Ada on screen and show that I wasn't just a subject, but also this was a way for us to exhibit in the film that I had was a part of the direction and production of the film, and kind of directing how I am seen, you know? So we thought this is a good example of a shift of representing form and content, you know, the conversations we're really having, you know? And I think a big difference is our conversations weren't just like the film was a good anchor, you know, about something specific and real that we were producing, but it was really about our relationship to each other and what we want for ourselves and that relationship, you know?
Yeah, that was one of our first goals was also that we grow in our relationship and that the process keep growing and feeling good. Not to say feeling comfortable all the time, but feeling like we didn't want to make a film and hate each other at the end of it, you know, but we wanted it to continue this sort of growth and development that we had experienced in our comradeship prior to this filmmaking project.
Yeah.
I think the film actually did, someone could drop that in the comments, actually did show the like allyship of a lot of times when Black content is created or Black story is shared, like just like you said in it, it's within the white gaze. And having addressed that, I thought was so brilliant, because it was something that I thought the first time I was watching it, because we want these stories heard, but also having the opportunities to actually create it as well. So I think most people in the audience probably appreciated you guys having that very real conversation, because it's not something easy to navigate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you guys.
Well, and I really think it's not actually about, like, I don't see Ada as my ally. Ada is my friend and my comrade.
Shouldn't friendships be allyships in a sense?
I understand. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that I do have people in my life, white folk in my life, who are allies. And I don't really want to be intimate with them. You know?
I
understand. Yeah. You know? And it's only because Ada and I have walked together through some where we have challenged power, you know, and have had to just kind of, I think Ada is a person with integrity, and my relationship with Ada has pushed me to be more of who I believe myself to be, you know. So I love Ada, and it's
don't make me the magical ally now, Wendi.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Are you guys doing any future projects together or separately, film or otherwise?
Man, go ahead, Ada. So
we don't have anything together planned, although we still want to figure out like distributing this film and getting it online. And so we have some behind the scenes work to do together. I'm not sure about my next filmmaking project. I have ideas about a story involving my mother, fictional piece, but kind of based on an experience she's going through. And I've also been turning more towards kind of an interest in somatics and understanding collective trauma and what it means to see systemic oppression through a lens of understanding how trauma works and what it does to our bodies. And so I'm just interested in more practice around that, and not totally sure what that has to do with filmmaking yet, but in a kind of behind the scenes inquiry around that. So that's something about my next projects.
I'll look forward to seeing it. I like Ada's work. And I have been working with an organization called Southerners on New Ground. I'm a co-director of a regional queer liberation organization where people who believe in abolishing the prison industrial complex and doing whatever we can to create liberation in our lifetime. Where especially we've been working over the last 3 years to end money bail, because we think cash bail is absurd. And so we have campaigns we have a campaign we call the Black Mamas Bailout. We have a campaign we call Melt Ice, because we want to end pretrial detention. And we work using things like cultural organizing and language justice, and do political education with people all across the South. So that
is awesome. I feel like sometimes maybe people listening think that just hearing you guys is so inspiring, and it also, I want to remind people, it can also be granular. Even just hearing the stories of queer people, of oppressed people, of traumatized people, just seeing what that looks like. Even in this film, I'm slightly ashamed to admit that some of the things that were said made me realize I don't even process that, right? I don't even process marriage, and not just as a document, as an institution, and the rights that gives. So the best to you guys. I'm so inspired, and I love the film again, of course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jenine.
So grateful to be able to share it and to share the amazing people who are in the film. So everybody who's in it are people who are freedom fighters too. And
right.
You know, we work hard here in New Orleans to make it a place where our children and our children's children and their children can live, you know, free from fear.
Jenine, do you have anything that you would like to talk about any upcoming projects?
Sure. They're tough acts to follow. I feel like they're over there pedal to the metal. I'm just, yay. No, but my content is really, it's audio, right? I want people to have a different perspective of things. It's not always so deep and guttural and hurtful. Sometimes I like to laugh, I like to sing and do jokes like that. Definitely inspired in my next season, season 2. I'm funny, right? I try to be. I try to make it funny. I try to make it informative. So in the next season, I'm definitely keeping that up. I have some woo things like spirituality, right? We talk about Beyonce and Black music and how it's viewed in the lens of, like, you know, Illuminati and weird stuff like that, right? So in the future, I'm looking to have more content like this and feature stories like this and talk to queer people and talk to trans Black women. I want to know their stories. I want people who don't know people in proxy can hear their stories and listen to it and take something from it, at least on that granular level. So, yeah.
Can I give a little shout out? I know we don't have much time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a song that's featured, and it's "Where You Go, I Will Go, Beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine." It's taken that scripture from oh, you know, I'm not a Bible person, but from when Ruth and Naomi are kind of destitute, and Ruth says to Naomi this beautiful expression of love, how she'll refuse to leave her and won't let even death keep her from doing that. Well, somebody wrote a song that I just love, and it's that scripture is a reference that my now wife used in a line that is part of how I agreed to date her. And so the fact that there's a song that I can sing about it and that it's actually biblically based, I just love using that song all the time and telling people it's our love song. And someone, I think, who wrote the song is here.
Yeah, Shoshana Jedwab, the composer. And this is the first time we've had that song in the film. This is the first screening with that song. And it was recorded, it was arranged and recorded, performed by Free for All, who's a friend and amazing local musician here.
Yeah, and my neighbor. And so I just love that. I mean, it's different than the Motown that we were listening to at our wedding, but I really appreciate being able to lift up, use this story of love between ancient women from a text that's usually used to, that's often used in very non-Christian ways to be unloving, to flip it, you know, because so much of what our purpose in this film is about not being perfect, not doing things, not doing the right thing necessarily, but in practicing taking a risk in service to your liberation, you know, like practicing willingness to take risks in service to our collective liberation. And so that's what that song is all about to me.
SJ in the chat says, I am swooning, Wendi.
Oh.
What else are people saying? We're only seeing some of the questions come through. Yeah. There's just a couple of people speaking in the chat, and it's really just thanking you so much for showing the film and how much they appreciate having it here. And then that's pretty much it.
Well, we really look forward to hearing each person's, you know, I would love to hear your stories and to see your films. And I feel like this film, I love our film. I'm totally biased. And I've seen, like, we've been in several film festivals now, including some festivals like where people, with people who spent a lot of money on their films. And we have been up for awards with some of these films. When I look at their credits, I'm like, oh my God, that's clearly like millions of dollars. I just saw one of our films on HBO Max, you know, one of the films we were competing with. And I'm like, we made our film for a bucket of chicken and some plane tickets. They made their films on Lord knows how much money. And our film competed with their films. So I feel like that just tells you that you too could figure out how to use what you have to make something that is equal to the quality of the life you're living, you know? You know, it's not easy, don't get me wrong, but you can do it.
Right. No. So I do have a couple of statements here in the chat, or in our personal chat. Just one was from Ogechi saying, it was interesting to see marriage being displayed in the film, and the strength and love that you have with your wife, and how you draw from it. Although you also speak like very openly against the institution, and how, you know, it's so complicated because you were actually punished for your marriage as well. And if you want, did you want to speak a little bit more on that?
Yeah, let me first say, I can't do anything without my wife. Like, she is an extraordinary person. Mandisa Moore-O'Neal is her name, and she is the truth. You could tell in the film. She don't, you know, she really does not take no shit. And I'm so grateful that I get to spend time with her, and I love her very deeply. And I'm happy to be married to her. And the state is not what makes us married, you know, and we don't believe in the patriarchal institution of marriage. We believe in loving commitment, and marriage is the language of our families. And so in order for our relationship to be recognized and respected by our families, that was a part of why we chose to get married. And but I've never seen marriage as something that expands rights. You know, it's actually something that the only rights it expands it doesn't really expand rights. It expands who has access to this kind of the institution of patriarchy. And patriarchy is tied to white supremacy and capitalism. And so it really is just expanding who has access. That's what it's doing. And but just like how I'm not a capitalist, but I do pay cash money for rent. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a patriarch, but I do have to participate in a family that's in the social, political, economic reality, you know? And so I don't know if that explains it, but there's some contradictions in there, and I just live with them, you know?
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Khalil.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm also getting married soon. So I've been having that conversation. Well, first with my father, and then with my mother, just about like what marriage means, because my mother is also getting married very soon too, and just trying to figure out like what it is besides this not acknowledgement by the state, you know what I'm saying? And like, what is that commitment?
Yeah.
But I do have like 2 more questions from the chat. And
chatty.
Yeah. The first one is, what would you say about the struggles of the LGBT plus movement in 2021? And that goes for either of you.
Our struggles are the struggles of any oppressed people. You know, that's what I'd say. That we, you know, like the anti-trans bills that are sweeping across the country, you know, they put trans people's name on it, you know, but it actually restricts the rights of all of us. You know, it like restricts the rights of oppressed people while expanding the electoral power of white supremacists, you know, who are using the Christian right as a wedge, you know, to continue to block voting rights and the gains and expansion of civil rights, you know. So whether they put the new immigrants' names on it, whether they put queer and trans people's names on it, whether they put Black people's names on it, where they put Asian American people's names on it. It's just something that is designed to restrict the rights of oppressed people, and you know, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it don't change what it is.
And the last question that we have here is, do you believe that it is the quality of life that makes that film, that makes your film? Do you believe that it is because that, or I'm gonna add a little bit here and say, is it your joy, your love, your family that adds to this film that makes it a little bit better?
Yeah. You know, my niece, who's in the film, is 5 now, and she stayed with us over the weekend, and she is delightful. And she is a part of why I work for liberation in this lifetime, so that she can be, you know, Bernice Johnson Reagan, I heard her say once, the freedom you have is the freedom you fight for. You know, like if you think you've won some freedom and then but you're not fighting for it, the next time you go to pick it up, it won't be there, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I believe that what helps me to fight is love, you know? Like really, truly, that's what helps me to be willing to grow and be willing to take risks, is because I want to be loved. I want to love myself. I want to grow in my capacity to be loving to myself and share that with my family. And it's being able to sing with Zoe and sing with my brother and listen to Kyrie talk about his films and his music. You know, that's what makes life worth living. And it's the genius of oppressed people who've survived living in resistance, you know, to these systems, that teaches me how to live no matter what, no matter what's happening. You know, no matter what's happening, if I'm breathing, there's something to be grateful for, and that's something to celebrate.
It's a beautiful sentiment.
So I think we're out. And just to clarify, I apologize to the chat out there. Jennifer was actually saying that was a comment and not a question, saying that it was because you had that quality of life that it was what made the film.
Thank you. And you know what? This experience really depressed me. You know, like that experience, it undermined my sense of it takes too long to talk about that, but it also taught me that there's more. You know, there are multiple ways to get to Toledo. You know, you don't have to just like. It taught me about the value of the connections I am lucky to have with family and friends and a community of people who are willing to take risks in service to our collective freedom. So thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me talk.
thank you all for coming out tonight and just talking about the film. And once again, thank you for letting us screen it with City of Asylum and the Sabira Cole Film Festival. We really appreciate you all being here and just having the time to talk tonight. So yeah, I can't thank you enough. Again.
Thank you so much for having us. And thank you everyone out there watching and adding your questions and comments also.
Indeed. Thank you, Jenine. Thank you, Khalil. Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you. Thank you for the story. Thank you guys again, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. And on behalf of City of Asylum, I would like everybody to have a good night. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Oh, yeah,
Good night.